Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
And it's April 5th. April 5th, and this is podcast like, I don't know, fucking 33?
But today is going to be a special monumental day because we are video podcasting for the first time. And we're going to be doing it in here with us right now, but then we're going to be heading on down to Parlor City.
Oh, there's a lot of things I like about Parlor City. One, their food.
Food's
I love
fantastic.
their fucking food. It's great atmosphere, and they
great.
have live music.
And this is my first time seeing live music there. I've only gone there to eat dinner and on like pub crawls and things like that are kind of more of a fun nature. But I love their food. But I'm really excited to go down and actually see Evan Stockman live because they killed it in here. So I can only imagine what they're going to do live. So.
Yeah, well, we didn't get to listen to Evan. We didn't get to listen to his voice. We don't know how he's going to sound. I know how his instruments sound.
Yeah.
But for him to rock it out and sing and everything, it's
going to be a unique experience.
Because you could, I mean, if your vocals suck, I mean, there's so many different ways that people sing. There's the hoarse, the raspy. There's there's so many different sounds that artists bring.
It'll be curious to see how he sounds. You're absolutely right. And I think it's good, too, we had a conversation with Terry McCauley about the idea of watching people live. One of the reasons why I like people live is I want to see if they really are artists. You know, I mean, there's been a meme going around the internet that shows Beyonce has a song called Women Rule the World, I think. And it had 6 writers and 4 producers, or 4 writers and 6 producers. Mm-hmm. And the words are all, women rule the world, you go girl, go girl, women rule the world, girls rule the world, you go girl. The whole entire song is that. And then it shows Bohemian Rhapsody, which was produced by
one person,
sung by the band Queen, and written by one person. The person who wrote it, produced it, and sang it with the band, right? Freddie Mercury, and that's it. You know, and it's like, Beyonce's going to make, gazillions of dollars, and Queen is too, but it just shows you the artistry necessarily. And I think she's a wonderful singer. I don't want to give her too bad a time, but it just shows kind of like the quality. And I saw her, she's in the Grammys, I think.
I don't know. I don't watch any of that stuff.
Well, the song was good, but when I actually heard the album, I was like, oh, the album sounds better than she did live. And it could just been the Grammys, But again, I'm excited. I'm assuming that Evan Stockman's going to be pretty awesome because we heard them in here, and if their music is as good as it was when they were here, that should be pretty awesome down at Parlor City. And you're right, to hear Evan's voice, I'm excited to hear that other piece.
Well, the neat thing was when they were in here before, they were just kind of going off the cuff and squirreling around is the impression that I got. Like, hey, let's just play, and then you feel what I'm feeling, and you kind of kick in there, and we just go off the cuff.
Right.
So to go to the CD, that's what tonight is. It's a CD release party.
Right.
They're brand new CD. They're selling CDs. It's to me, it's such a wonderful grassroots. Is this how all artists start? Is this what they want to stay as? I mean, just I hate it when people say the word organic, like, oh, this is organic, but just not contrived.
Right. I think organic's good because it has a sense of
all natural,
naturally coming,
just very natural,
unfiltered. Just kind of straightforward. That's kind of how I think of it. It's not being altered and manipulated. It's coming from a pure place with these 3 artists.
Right.
So
and they're going to be going around asking for donations tonight because they're going to be going on the road.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're going to be starting a tour. So it's so fucking hot. They got the
van.
Awesome.
They got the van for the tour for sure.
They do have the van for the tour, as long as the van can keep up. What they say they had 60,000. I mean, it was a ridiculously low number of mileage on the van.
Oh, I didn't know that. It
very,
looks like
very
it's
small number.
Got 360,000 miles on it.
Right.
Besides its sweet rims, it's got
the paint job on it.
Yeah, rode hard and put away wet quite a few times. You want to hit some current events real quick?
Let's hit some current events.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to be short and sweet, ladies and gentlemen, because we are going to be heading down to Parlor City, and the larger extent of our podcast is going to be the Evan Stock Band. So
yes, but
you will get a brief
There are some
glimpse.
things I want to talk about because I just watched a new
Do
movie.
it. You start us off.
Well, my current event.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a Pennsylvania school stabbing.
Okay.
School stabbing.
Terrible.
It is terrible. It's terrible in the fact that anybody gets hurt. Any story where kids get hurt, anything that goes on at schools, whether it's bullying, how many times does that happen and we don't hear stories of it? We don't see video of kids getting their fucking faces bashed in at school because of a bully, or kids, because of a bully, go home and they eat a bullet, or kids overdose on their parents' prescription pain medications because of a bully. I mean, there's so much violence at schools anymore that we seem to only focus on the gun violence. And
well, you had to say bullying has been addressed and is being talked about on a regular basis.
Yeah, I suppose it is. But when it
any kind of violence, whether it's involving a weapon,
yeah. Okay. But how often do you hear, hey, there was a mass casualty injury today at a school because of a stabbing, because of one student with knives?
Well, and listen, this may sound bad. Maybe maybe the kid didn't have access to a gun. Maybe that's why it's not as bad as it could have been, because he didn't have access to a weapon. Could that be possible?
It could be possible. I mean, when you think of what do you want to take to a fight, a knife or a gun?
Right.
You're going to take a gun. Why? Because it's more lethal. It's easier to use. It's more lethal. You can do more damage with it. Enough said. But as I told you before we hit record, gun activists out there there's just been a barragement of, ever since the Columbine school shooting, ever since that school shooting, there has been almost an ongoing onslaught of negative campaigning against guns, period. There isn't a whole lot of campaigning about, we just need to make sure that people that have the mental faculties.
Well, I guess I would disagree. I think that I've heard more conversations from more people saying we just want to have, kind of like regulations that just make sense. Well, you don't have to
recently I would say yes.
Well, since Sandy Hook, that's what I've heard the most of. Let's just have some sensible gun regulations. We don't want to take everybody's guns away from them. You can have whatever gun you want, but when you do register, maybe there's some background checks that need to take place that are mandatory, and again, that's when I bump into the idea of, Connecticut, who people are purposely not registering their guns. And as far as I'm concerned, as a free citizen, I want to know I don't want to know if you have a gun. I want to know that if you have a gun, you have the wherewithal and the maturity to handle it the right way. I don't have to know you have a gun, but I need to somehow know that you're a responsible adult.
Well, how about this? I'll compromise with you.
Okay.
How about if the law was one law that governs every state, that every state could agree with, not that you're just shoving it down their throat, that everybody could get along with and say, yes, I agree. That type of training, as long as you have that type of training, you can have a carry conceal, or if you have that type of training, you can purchase a gun, as long as you can conduct it safely. If you can come in and show a class or an instructor that you can do A, B, or C, then yes, you know how to operate it safely, you know how to take care of it, you know how to keep it in a safe condition, locked up or whatever at home. Then
to me, that just almost seems like common sense.
No-brainer, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's a compromise. I would give you that 100 days out of 100 days. You know what I mean? I just wouldn't.
But if that was the only law,
right?
If that was the only
absolutely
only requirement,
that sounds to me like a perfect idea, because you're not going to get some jackass who's mentally disabled who's going to come in and be able to perform all those things. To me, it takes care of itself, and that's a great idea.
Yeah, but for those people who have listened to me but now see me, know that I am at times a jackass. Okay?
Wait, go ahead.
I have a carry conceal license.
Right.
And I got that because it was like a 2-for-1 type deal. I could just get my permit to purchase a gun and have it at home and then take it to the firing range and use it if I want to. Or I could just get a carry conceal license, and that's good for purchasing a gun also.
Okay.
Okay? But because I'm prior military and because I work at a facility where I have to carry a gun, and I've gone through tactical training, I've
Sure.
gone through all the gun safety stuff at my work, I instantly am licensed. I have it's signed off. I just take it in. Yep. Boom.
Well, that sounds kind of like
here's
what-
X amount of dollars. But here's the big thing that I'm missing, that I'm willing to admit that I'm missing, and it really should be a necessity. I don't understand the laws
Oh,
appropriately.
okay.
Like, where do you put your gun in the car when you're driving? Oh, yes, you can conceal it. You can have it on your person. What if you get pulled over for a speeding ticket? What if you any type of traffic violation? What happens?
Right.
What happens if somebody comes at you? Is there a certain degree of violence that has to happen to you before you can pull your
good
gun?
question.
Is it a stand your ground state? Is it Florida?
Can you
is
go
it
state
Iowa?
to state? Can you go if you have a conceal and carry license? Can you go state to state? Where if you have go into a state that doesn't
exactly?
have it?
Do you know other states' laws? I have to. If I were to go on a trip somewhere, I have to look ahead of time on a website and see, does that state agree to Iowa's state? Do they?
Right.
I'm not saying it correctly.
No, you're right. Do they have the same rules, same laws? Absolutely.
But do they? I'm sorry. Do they recognize
Right.
my license to own carry conceal? I mean, I could have all the proper paperwork, but they could say, yeah, fuck you. We
Right.
don't recognize Iowa's laws. And there's quite a few states that say that. So if you're going from Iowa to Texas, there might be one or two states that you better have that fucking thing packed away.
Right. Yeah.
You better not have it in your waistband, which is pretty fucking uncomfortable to drive with anyway.
Oh, I could imagine.
But at any time, you can get pulled over. What if there's an accident? You know, there's
Right.
a gun that flies out of your car or something. I mean, there's so many things. It's not just about, yeah, I was in the military. I can pull a trigger and I can aim it.
Right.
That's one thing.
Well,
I don't understand the laws.
You
I
know-
didn't go through that type of training.
And to me, that goes back to that no-brainer thing. I would assume that because you've gone through all that training and you get a 2-for-1 deal and you instantly are licensed, it makes sense because you've been trained to be those things. It's almost the same thing you just talked about. I think that maybe we should all probably understand the rules and laws when it comes to things that can take our lives. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. For instance, if something was happening, if I pulled into a grocery store parking lot, I got out of my car, and I saw a mother or a father just fucking belt their kid right in the face, would I or should I pull my handgun, point it at him, and say, "Get on the ground. This is a citizen's arrest"? You know,
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you do? I mean, some people I wouldn't do that because I very rarely ever carry.
Right.
But some people, because all of a sudden they get a license, they think, I can carry. I'm a sheriff.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
It does empower you, I guess.
when do you pull that sidearm out? And I always fall back on, I don't know all the laws. I fall back on the one thing, which is my life in danger or is somebody else's life in danger? So if I was in a situation where somebody else pulled a gun on somebody, then I would feel completely comfortable and ready and capable of pulling my gun out and shooting that person.
Right. But then that's the hard part is it even seems like the rules are convoluted, you know? It seems like the rules are geared more towards white people in a positive light than minorities. And then you talk about, there's been so much talk on different shows I've been seeing recently, new books that are out about the discrepancy of like bankers, you know, that they can do just pretty much anything they want. They don't have a lot of repercussions for things. They have to give people money, but that's about it.
What do you mean?
So
like for instance, like what? What are you talking about?
CSBS, the bank that was absolutely laundering money for narco terrorists. They're out of London and they have huge parts of their bank here, right? And they laundered money for narco terrorists, period. And they admitted to it. Nobody went to jail. Nobody got in trouble. They paid a $1.9 billion fine, and that's it. And they're still working. They're still going, and nothing's changed.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I went from one thing to another. But it's like the stand the ground laws. You talked about, that guy who shot those kids in the parking lot because their music was too loud, and he thought he saw a shotgun, so he shot them. The guy, obviously Trayvon Martin issue, right? But then you have similar cases of black men standing their ground 25 years. A black woman, her husband's coming at her in a part of an abusive relationship. She fires the gun off in the air. Instead of fucking shooting him, she gets 10 years. It just seems like they're just totally skewed ways of handling the law.
We've talked about this. There's so many stupid laws out there. Everything's so convoluted. There's things that do not make sense. For instance, you get thrown in jail for weed, which is a non-violent crime,
right?
And your fucking life is wrecked.
Right.
Your life is fucking wrecked. It's a non-violent crime. You're doing something to yourself, which is no different, which is actually even healthier than drinking alcohol or smoking regular cigarettes.
Right.
And they're going to throw you in a fucking cage. I mean, when Joe Rogan, he was really the first person who I heard, and probably many other people have said this.
Yeah.
But when he said, you do something to yourself and nobody else, and you get thrown in a cage.
Right.
A cage.
I thought
that was it was a huge awakening for me. Like, oh my God, you're thrown in a cage.
Yeah.
I would never want to be put in a cage. The idea of being locked in a cage, when you say it like that, instead of saying you're going to go to prison, instead of saying you're going to get locked up, you're going to go to jail.
Right.
No. Say it like it is. You're going to be put in a cage for the rest of your life.
Matt,
that way of saying it makes me almost go insane with the idea of getting put in a cage.
And then when Keone Cook was here, owner of Hard Drive MMA, when he said, "You're going to tell me that I can't take a plant that grows out of the ground in my backyard and smoke it, that I'm breaking the law." That was another eye-opener for me. And Matt Taibbi, who wrote this book about the banking, the financial stuff, he said that when this whole thing went down with HSPS, this bank, I'm not saying it right, fuck it. Anyways.
Well, what do you mean you're not saying it right?
HSPS, I don't think that's the right, it's HSC something or other. It's the name of this bank. It's out of London. But he said he went down to the courthouse after that happened, right? Funding terrorism. People are dying because they're funneling money and laundering money for this group. There's no penalty except for $2 billion, which they'll make out easily in a year or so. Okay. He went down and said, "What was the craziest drug charge you heard about today at this courthouse?" And the guy's like, "I heard a guy today got nabbed for having a joint in his pocket and got 40 days in Rikers Island." So here's a company that launders money for narco-terrorists. Nothing happens to anybody. And here's a guy walking down the street with a joint in his...
They don't get put in a cage.
Right, they don't get put in a cage.
That's the difference. You don't get put in a cage, and you get a pittance. That would be like me beating a police officer, beating them, and then them saying, "Oh, and after I beat them, I take the police's wallet. I take all their money."
Okay.
And then in repercussion, they say, "Matt, you're gonna have to give us at least $10."
Right.
Great, because in that guy's wallet was at least $400.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly.
Here's $10. Tomorrow, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you again. Hope you have $400 on you.
What's to stop you?
What's the repercussions? I'm not put in a cage.
Well, and the guy who wrote Moneyball, he wrote another book too about this. It's not insider trading, but it's called. Let me look at my notes here real quick. Sorry. It's called front buying. And so,
I'm sorry, what? Front buying?
Front buying. Okay. And so what it would be is if you are a broker and I'm a broker, right? And I put in to buy a stock, okay?
Okay.
And when they send that through the wire, literally through a fiber optic wire, right?
Yep.
Your wire connected to the server is closer. So you get the information that I'm wanting to buy a stock. You get it before I do because my wire is longer. Right. You can get ahead of me and sell it back to me for more money because you're able to get ahead of it.
Yeah. Because my wire's shorter than your
crazy.
wire.
And again,
because it's nanoseconds.
It's microseconds. Yeah. It's all done by computers and it's done in a blink of an eye.
Is nano smaller than micro? Or is micro smaller than nano?
I think nano is smaller than
Everything
micro.
Fucking sounds small at this point.
Nano. I think nano Nanobites. I think
Listen,
nanos.
if somebody were to say, Matt, your dick is micro size, or if they were to say, Matt, your dick is nano size, I'd be like,
worse.
that nano's worse. Please don't describe my dick in nanobites.
It just seems like, and then I think you and I have talked about this farmer, Joel Salanis, who is on Joe Rogan as well, and he does a polyface farming in I believe it's Pennsylvania. No, it's Virginia, sorry. Where he doesn't use any antibiotics, doesn't use anything, and he farms animals on smaller plots of land because he mixes in the biodiversity of the land itself. And so he has chickens roaming at one point, and then he has cows roaming on the same pasture at a different point. And then he has other chickens, roaster chickens instead of egg chickens roasting, walking around that site, and they're pulling bugs out of the cow manure. He's creating a rich biodiversity
by funneling different animals through that same part.
Yeah,
part
so he's
of land.
got pigs, chickens, eggs and roasters, to slaughter, and then he's got cows. And he said he'll have 400 head of cattle on 2 acres, which is 2 football fields. He said that's a lot of cattle, but we'll just do it for one day. Then we'll move into another pasture, and then we put our chickens on it. And the chickens walk around and shit, and they do all their stuff.
And they use low voltage wire.
Low voltage electric fence. Same with his
right.
pigs.
And that kind of moves, that kind of herds them.
They just don't go anywhere. They know not to go anywhere.
Right.
Of the fences.
But the idea is old school. We used to have people that walked around and we herded cattle.
Right.
We had people that were herders.
It seems like...
Is that right? Is that herders? Is that correct?
Yeah. I think what I've been feeling like when I keep hearing about certain companies and certain banks, I think about Fight Club. And this is why I think about Fight Club.
That's why Fight Club is an amazing movie. And if you didn't get it and you thought it was stupid, maybe you should watch it 6 or 7 more times.
Because when he blows up those buildings and is trying to reset the system... that's kind of what the ultimate thing is, isn't that? It's like things are askew.
Now, we're not saying we need to go out and blow up buildings. We're not saying
But you
that.
understand the premise behind the movie.
You understand the motivation behind why someone would think about doing it.
So it seems like there needs to be a reset, because Joe Rogan was big about saying, now listen, can we take your kind of farming and can we actually use it?
Right. Can we retrofit what we currently have to where you're at? And he said... The guy said basically you would have to tear up everything that you've created.
Yeah.
All the silos, all the cement, all that stuff that you've made nice and pretty. Mm-hmm. You'd have to tear all that up and go back to natural.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to do that because we put in so much time, so much energy, so much money.
My first thought,
in creating buildings and physical structures. You don't want to go backwards.
Yeah, but my first thought, though, was that we should have a farm. If he can do that on 20 acres...
That was your first thought?
It was, totally, because I can't do anything without you.
Dude,
my first thought was we need to do a farm. Because I thought it was that if we had 20 acres, which is what he talks about, we could raise a certain amount of head of cattle, pigs, chickens, and egg chickens in a 20-acre plot, which is feasible. Because now if you're going to buy 100 acres in Iowa, it's going to cost you $1 million. So the smaller space you can use to produce the most... produce is the best. And so I thought, well, if you could do it with 20 acres, that's pretty absolutely incredible if you could pull that off. You'd have to find a market. You'd have to find a way to do it. But I don't know. It seems so feasible. And I think that we're going to have to go back to something like that.
Yeah, more and more people are going to have to... that's how change happens. One person does something and you're like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
Right.
I like that. I like it. It's feasible. It's economic. Yeah, let's fucking do that. It's better for the land. It's better for... You get better, healthier animals.
Sure.
So, yeah, why don't we try that?
Yeah.
But it takes people to take them out of the norm.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you and I were making $250,000 a year and we're sitting high on the hog and everything's happy-go-lucky and we're not so worried...
What are you talking about? Like from our podcast? That's right.
I meant if we were making a living that made us very comfortable and we weren't really worried about very much, do you think we would have this? We still would have the same point of view? I don't. Part of me is motivated by the idea that I can drop $500 at a grocery store now in a fucking blink of an eye because I'm buying all organic, all non-GMO stuff, cheese, milk, fruits and vegetables. It costs a fucking fortune. Bread. I try to buy organic, non-GMO bread. It comes frozen, it's like the Ezekiel kind of stuff. But it's the stuff my kids love. And so it's a $6 loaf of bread. It's like,
Have you ever thought about just getting a fucking bread maker and making, just getting the raw ingredients and making it yourself?
I could probably do that. Gotta take a lot of trial and error. My kids are fucking picky. I have to work
Your
hard.
kids are fucking picky, dude.
Yeah, I gotta work on that. But I feel like I've done a pretty good job because I've altered a lot of things and they haven't complained. So I'm pretty happy.
There's a few things I don't want to touch on, and I'm gonna say the lot of them right now, and then we can kind of
Okay.
I have a little word salad here for a second.
A little diarrhea.
Okay. One, moving my mom recently and all the shit that she's accumulated.
Yes.
Which harkens to the idea, if you were to see all the stuff that we moved, I mean, it's a physical representation of what her life has been, her whole life, what she's held on to, what's important to her, all the shit, all the bullshit that we consume as Americans, as capitalists, which we're supposed to be happy about, which
Right.
I don't know why, because we're no fucking happier
Right.
than anybody else, which I don't understand.
But that's old news.
That is old news, right? So moving my mom and all the shit that she has.
It was a great time.
The Winter Soldier. I went and saw Captain
Oh, is
America
it
the
good?
Winter Soldier. It's really good, and if you're looking at it through the lens that I was watching it through, my paradigm, which was, I'm not saying Hydra is running our government, but I have thought, how can we make the decisions that we're making up on Capitol Hill
Right.
and wherever? How can we as American citizens stomach what we know to be true with the buying off of politicians and the corruptive behavior of our government and us going to war and killing men, women, and children and all because of money?
Right.
Not because of any other moral reason, not because, well, if we don't attack them, they are going to come over here and kill us all.
Right.
We're defending ourselves. I mean, that is really, truly the only reason we should go to war and kill and have all those mass casualties and those innocents,
Right.
women and children killed.
Collateral damage.
I mean,
so to speak.
all that. But we truly are sitting here and our eyes are completely open to everything that's going on, and we still stomach the fact that we do what we do.
Right.
And in the Winter Soldier, it kind of comes. I don't want to. Should I ruin it?
Don't ruin it. Yeah, don't
Okay,
ruin it.
but in that movie, if you watch it through that lens of something is wrong with our system.
Right.
Something. And it amazes me that none of us truly have stepped up and said, enough. Fucking enough. Enough of you people going to Congress and buying votes. Enough of Congress and politicians giving themselves raises for fucking what? For
Right.
what? You have the best health insurance for the rest of your life.
You have that pay for the rest of
For
your
the
life.
rest of your life.
Right.
You just landed the best fucking gig ever.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, the hard part is that it's things are so gerrymandered now. I mean, they talk about how 60 plus people want to have some kind of gun regulation. 60+% of people want to have all these things that just make common sense, right? But nothing changes in Washington because they have. You've seen how they gerrymandered those areas where it looks like a puzzle piece that's made. It's like a piece of an exacto.
Dude.
It's like things are around other things and they cut out certain sections. And so the way those are set up is so that those people get reelected every single time and it does not change.
The idea that politicians are looking out for the constituents is such bullshit.
Yeah, it just doesn't make
All of
sense.
it is bullshit. It's a total fucking lie. Not a single person that goes to Capitol Hill and is voting on bills is looking out for me. They're looking out for corporations. The bottom line
themselves.
the bottom line is economics. Does that make good economics? Well, that only means, does the rich get richer? That's
Right.
all that means. Because wages go down and the people who own the businesses and the people who the shareholders, as long as they make more money every year, as long as they see growth
Right.
every year, then they're happy, then they're good. But it doesn't say the little guys, the people doing the work, the middle class, the lower class, are we taking care of them? No. When there's a law, and there is a law, I should look it up right now, that basically states, if I'm a shareholder and you're the owner of a company, you're the CEO, if you made the decision, you know what we're doing, pretty fucking unethical. I'm not going to do that anymore. If I, as a shareholder, can prove that you are not making decisions to increase or improve my profit, I can sue you.
So their motivation is to make sure that happens then.
Yeah, because if they don't, I mean, so you follow logic.
Right.
And the logical recourse is the CEO has to do everything he can to nickel and dime every aspect of his company so that the shareholders can make more money every fucking time.
Right.
And if that's the idea, we're fucked. If that's truly a law, if it is,
I heard the same thing. So
if it's truly a law, we are totally fucked. And the person who made that law is a fucking Nazi. He's no better than a fucking Nazi. And that's truly how we need to start labeling people. Dude, you're no better than Hitler. You're no better than a Nazi. You're no better than a racist piece of shit. What you're doing is hurting me. What you're doing is hurting humanity.
Right. Well, and I think that's a huge part of that whole CEO increase stuff anyways. Because you can't, how can it ever stop? I mean, in other words, it can't stop. And so it's always profits, always growing. There has to be some kind of, it has to slow down at some point. It just can't keep going and going and going. That sounds impossible.
It's going to burn out. And that's why, to me, with my limited education, my limited view of things, to me, this is a systemic infection. And we need to hit the fucking reset button. Somehow, because of there's so much fucking loopholes in our justice system, because so many things just don't fucking make sense anymore, because we still have a law somewhere that says you can beat your wife on Sunday as long as it's on the courtroom steps.
Right.
As long as there's stupid shit like that that's actually still legal, as long as we have banks that can launder money and only pay a percentage as a penalty,
right?
As long as we have congressmen who can, what's the thing about what did Martha Stewart go to jail for?
Insider trading.
As long as congressmen can do insider trading and it's legal, but we can't, we are fucked. We are completely screwed, and we are going down this water slide to shit, and eventually. Eventually, it's just going to fall apart like Rome did. No, the thing that I need to start thinking about, because I truly think that we are on this pivotal downward slide like crazy, is what was the after effects of Rome falling? I mean, we've all talked about, well, the fall of Rome. The empire fell apart. Okay, well, what happened to the people when that empire fell apart?
Well, that's when independent states and independent countries began to form, usually around ethnicity. Ethnicity. That's what took place. I mean, that's kind of what happened. People realized that you still, even though Rome took over the world, you still had Germania. You still had Britain. You still had these places that had their cultures and had their rules.
Right, but what happened? What happened to the people? I mean, what was the physical outcome to individuals because Rome fell apart? Because the Roman Empire fell apart.
I bet
if the United States fell apart, how many people can sustain their livelihood? How many people can take care of themselves?
My thought would be that states, if somehow the federal government were to fall apart, my thought is that the states would take over themselves.
So states would become countries?
Maybe
just
they would
like Europe?
Maybe they'd be like little countries. Yeah, maybe. I mean, the only difference is that we all speak English. We all culturally have very similar things. You know what I mean? That would probably wouldn't be quite as drastic, as France being on one side of the continent and, Ukraine being on the other. Those are two distinct different cultures. But with everybody speaking, English for the most part here, I imagine we would all become kind of like our own little independent statehoods, so to speak. We still would be part of the greater United States, but I think that but the hard part is that somebody will fill that fucking void. If states don't take over to their own thing.
That's the idea is when anybody talks about when people talk about the United States falling apart and our economy completely crashing, people automatically jump to post-apocalyptic measures. Well, that's not what happened after Rome.
Right. Well, you're right, because the federal government really is in Washington, D.C. I mean, when it comes to the states, we have our state capitals, our governors, our representatives, our senators, and then we have the people of that state. There's no necessarily federal footprint here, and so if the federal government wanted to shut down, that's why I think that states would take over, because they can govern themselves. They already are. They have certain things they have to follow because the federal government makes them do that by laws and the Constitution. But I think otherwise it would just that's why I don't think it's going to be some apocalyptic kind of thing. I think there'd be some shit hitting the fan for sure. But I think if you're in Iowa, like we are, we're a bunch of goddamn farmers and blue collar people, and I bet you life would probably go on very similar. It'd be fucking scary.
I think it would be mass chaos for a few years. Here's the silly thing, and then we've talked about this on a previous podcast about my. I don't understand. I never understood apartheid.
Right.
I never could get my head around it. How could such a small handful of white people completely fuck over millions of black people?
Right.
I just never could get my head around it. Like, why wouldn't all the black people stand up and just say, you're all fucking bullies, and there's just a little bit of you, and we're running the show now.
Right.
But that's what's happening right now. We are in a position that is almost worse than apartheid. Do you know that back in medieval times, when you were a serf, right? That's pretty low level. Mm-hmm. The income ratio between what a serf made and what the king had is less. It was a less of a difference than what we have, you and I have, compared to the 1%.
Right. Yeah.
And when you looked at them back then,
you thought, my God.
Holy shit.
Right. Yeah.
How terrible they must have been treated.
Yeah, and then you start throwing in the idea that, okay, well, how can that happen? Well, because you have the Kardashians. You have distractions. We've talked about distractions plenty of times. You have things that distract you, whether it's bills you have to pay or getting to work on time or taking care of the kids. They're gonna have things, and I don't think of some grand conspiracy or some group of people that are controlling everything. I just don't think that way. But you can see how the idea is pretty simple to get across, that they're just distracting you to make sure you don't see the strings and the puppet master. It's easily conceivable.
It's when you watch The Winter Soldier, which, yes, people out there, which, by the way, the GoPro stopped recording. It's not flashing anymore, but my camera's recording.
Oh, this is full. So let's wrap it up.
Okay.
How long did they go to that stop?
I don't know. I just looked up there.
Okay.
I'm saying probably within the last 10 minutes. But okay. When you watch The Winter Soldier, I've thought when we finished World War II and we brought German scientists over to help us finish the atomic bomb.
Right.
When I heard those stories and I heard about alien stuff and Area 51 and the atomic bomb and again how we brought German scientists over, it's like, you know what, at some point it was the scientists that turned shit really fucking evil in Germany. It was the scientists that were like, or the doctors that said, yeah, let's see how much this fucking person can take pain. It was some doctor that said, well, if I cut this off, let's see how long they'll live. It wasn't Hitler. Hitler wasn't just sitting back going, take off the leg.
Right.
It was a scientist. It was a doctor. But those were the fucking people that were like, let's do some crazy shit.
No, I think you had lots of people that fell in line with Hitler. You had authors, you had actors, you had artists, you had normal people, you had scientists, you had people that fell into the same way of thinking that he did.
Right. But I haven't read anything. I haven't been led to believe at any time in my life that Hitler went up to a doctor and said, take off the leg and see how long that Jew can live.
No, sure.
Let's put this person through as much pain as possible to see how long the human body can live.
Right.
I've never heard that. And if I'm wrong, you know what? School me on it. That's okay. I'll listen to your comments on YouTube. You watched The Winter Soldier, and yes, it's about Captain America. It's about this Marvel comic book hero.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much of that if you can just for a second see it at a different angle, you can say to yourself, okay, we're pretty fucking corrupt. We're pretty evil as a society, as Americans. We do some really fucked up shit that we do this to now. Oh, we're droning, we're bombing wherever, and we're not declaring war. We're just gonna go in and we're gonna say, you don't have democracy. We're gonna tell you what democracy is. Oh, you don't have the right ruler in. Well, let's help that ruler get killed, and now we're gonna help get the ruler in that we want.
Right.
We don't care. Bankers, they don't have to go to jail. Poor black guys smoking a joint, they can go and rot in a cage. It's really sick. It's really fucking sick. It's Nazism. It's as sick and as gross what we are doing and what we allow, what we see on a day-to-day basis. We're like, It's as sick and as wrong and as gross as what Hitler was doing to Jews. And we don't see it. None of us see it. Hardly any of us do.
Well, because we don't want to, right? We keep our eyes wide shut. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah. And even now, I'm talking through a filter that I don't necessarily agree with. Even now, I'm using a device that I have said in the past, recently, oh, God, if only an EMP blast would hit the world. If only a solar pulse would happen from the sun, an EMP pulse from the sun would knock out every electronic thing, we would be better off as a species.
Well, as a planet.
Oh, we would interact more. We wouldn't be lost in technology for hours on end.
The planet might even get a chance to stop and heal itself, God forbid.
Yeah, take a breather.
Yeah.
You know, just the other night, I sat and stared at a fucking broken laptop, trying to fix it for hours, instead of interacting with my beautiful wife, who was 3 feet away from me, because we wanted to watch The Walking Dead. And I was just trying to fucking figure out, how can I watch this fucking thing? How can I watch it for hours? I'm just on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Finally, I was like, I'm so fucking tired. I have to go to sleep.
Right.
I have to go to sleep. Oh, you're right there. We could have been fucking.
Right.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to watch a television show
with you.
What's more important? Actually talking to somebody and enjoying your spouse and interacting and doing something physical.
Exactly. Well, hey, we have a pretty...
Let's bring it back up. Let's bring it way back up.
I think these conversations are good to have. We do have a wonderful group of artists to go listen to, though.
Yeah. So let's take off and go listen to them and go see The Winter Soldier, because it's a great fucking, it's a good fucking movie.
Is it? And see, I loved Captain America. Is it as good as Captain America?
It's better because it's deeper.
Oh, nice.
It's better because it's
I've heard
deeper.
good things about it. So
it's really, really good.
Awesome.
And it doesn't have the Hulk and all that stuff, but it's really good. And again, you get to see, we've talked about seeing actors in a light that you've rarely, if ever, seen them in before.
Mm-hmm.
And in The Winter Soldier, there's an actor and you're like, oh, you fucker. It's really kind of neat to see you as a dick.
Robert Redford? Oh, you stinker.
There it is. I'm not going to tell you. So, stay tuned. Here's the Evan Stock Band. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And we'll see you later.
Adios.
Good night.
this up. Thinking about starting off with some blues. Nothing wrong with blues. so much. We're gonna play one of the older ones. This is called The Ballad of the Sun and the Moon. Up this far. Thanks so much. It's called The Ballad of the Sun and the Moon, one of our old originals. If you like what you're hearing tonight, we got CDs for sale over here in the corner. Our latest album was just recently released. $10. Go ahead and pick yourself one Also one of our oldest originals. Goodbye, Snowy Winter. going to take a short break. Thank you guys so much for having a great time. I hope you are too. Thank you so much for the other Saturday. We'll be right back up with just a little bit of play some music for you guys. CDs for sale right over here.